With the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible, we called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Seabird.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. Hey, this is a place where I get to really kind of unload a lot of things, tell my story, talk about issues related to the combat life. I'm a combat vet, lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round in April 2006. Took over 100 pieces of shrapnel, had my last rites read to me, and I come on this show to kind of help a combat vet out, allow our sponsor, supporters, volunteers, and our other combat vets to come on and tell their story. And give hopefully some good input as to anything that's going on. Hey, today I'm lucky enough to have Justin Matkins on. He's a combat vet, United States Marine, 2 MOSs, 2147, 2141, mechanic, and he has his own company in the Temecula area, and he called Semper Fix-It. Goes around welding to, all this different things. 22% discount for our combat vets, first responders. Hey, Justin, good to have you on deck. How you doing, brother?
Great, Aaron. Happy to be here.
Hey, man, it's really good to see you. I got to see you way back when you were kind of just getting out of the Marine Corps and kind of dealing with some stuff. Talk about your story, man. Talk about your story of why you went in the Marine Corps, your transition, and some other cool things that are, obviously we'll get into your work, and what you're doing now is so incredible. So,
oh gosh, wow. Well, where do I begin? Everybody watching, grab a seat, grab your favorite drink, and sit back and enjoy, I guess. I joined the Marine Corps in 2004. Originally, when I was in high school, I actually wanted to be a meteorologist. I wanted to study weather, always fascinated by weather. The towers went down on September 11th, 2001, and that changed my whole mindset. I was just, you know what? I'm going to go fight for the country. So I spent that time, I was in 9th grade, actually, when the towers went down. So I spent my entire time in high school gearing towards joining the military. In 10th grade, I really challenged all the recruiters at the school, and I realized, go big or go home. I don't want to join the Army. I want to join the hardest branch there is. So I decided, all right, let's give the Marine Corps a shot. I loved the way I interacted with the recruiter. He just kind of made me feel like he felt I wasn't worthy. He challenged me, had me do the pull-ups. Everybody's done the pull-ups. And from then I maintained that relationship. In my 11th grade year, I completed 11th grade. I decided I didn't want to wait. I wanted to go right now. So I dropped out of high school, actually. I went 2 weeks later. I got my GED. I scored the highest in the class. I took that GED straight to the recruiter's office. And they were like, all right, let's get you onboarded. Let's get you on the delayed entry program. And as soon as your number's called, we'll get you shipped to boot camp. In the meantime, I was in a program called Young Marines. Aaron, I don't know if you're familiar with that program. It's a youth organization. Okay, cool. For those of you that don't know, it's a youth organization for kids. It's like Boy Scouts on steroids. The kids go to a 13-week boot camp. They get to earn rank. They wear camis. They take pride in their uniform. They march in parades. All of this stuff I did to kind of gear me up to get ready for the military. Before actually going into boot camp, I achieved the rank of gunnery sergeant in the Young Marines program, which allowed me to get out of boot camp as a meritorious PFC. Pretty cool. So I went to boot camp I hit Parris Island on September 9th, 2004. My first day of training, coincidentally, was September 11th, 2004. Graduated Parris Island with my original platoon 2109. Graduation date was December 3rd. Obviously from there, because I didn't have a grunt MOS, I got sent to MCT. After MCT was done, I was shipped over to Maryland to start training at Aberdeen Proving Grounds as a 2147. Now, the reason why I chose to go mechanic was I knew I was joining the military, but I also knew there was going to come a time the military was going to end and I needed marketable skills. So I figured I want to be on the front lines, but I want a marketable skill. So I went combat vehicle repair option. They chose 2147. After completing that, I went to 29 Palms, California. Glorious place. I was assigned to 3rd Line Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. I did my first pump to Oki while it was when they assigned me to my company's designation was to go to Oki. The other companies went to Iraq. When they came back, they started doing the workups for the next round. When I came back from Oki, I found myself in the workups for Iraq. Went to Iraq in 2007. From 2007 to 2008, Operation 6 TAC 8, which was the conversion deployment from Operation Iraqi Freedom to Operation Enduring Freedom. During the time outside the wire, or as soon as we got in the country, my gunnery sergeant was like, Matkins, you're one of the best mechanics. We're going to send you out. We're going to send you out on your own with Tomahawk Platoon, which was the platoon designated as the QRF, or Quick Reaction Force, for the other units in the area. So I stayed outside the wire the entire time. We did lots of mounted patrols, dismounted patrols. We did a lot of support missions. We did a few reconnaissance missions. We were finding caches. We were finding high-value targets. We were doing patrols through some pretty gnarly areas. In 2007, the initial push and the second push, all that had already been done, but the insurgent attitude was still pretty high. They didn't want us there. The population liked having us there, but they were still planning IEDs and stuff like that. The biggest thing that I ran into when I was in country, we did a dismounted patrol through the city of Rayana. And when we did that dismounted patrol, an IED went off and the shock wave just ripped through the most of us. Now, to kind of build a mental picture, there's a median in the middle. There's 2 lanes of dirt road. There's housing structures along the side. There was a municipal building. There was a shopping market and a hospital. My platoon sergeant had me post up against a wall behind a tree and sight in downrange for this long dark alley, or this long alleyway. So my responsibility was to make sure nobody came down that alleyway. And if they did and they met the rules of engagement, I was to engage. None of us were expecting the IED blast. When it went off, it shocked all of us. The shock wave ripped through me, took the wind out of me, threw me back against the wall. It was a half wall, so my back kind of bent over it a little bit. And that was my first real take at, a live combat experience. Luckily for us, the courtyard or the market area was completely dead. So my platoon sergeant knew something was up when we started going through the courtyard. None of us, again, we expected the blast. It went off. No insurgents came out after us. So we cordoned off the area. We brought EOD in. They inspected it. It was triple stack 155 shells with 4 gallons of accelerant. They cleaned it up. We cleaned up. We packed up. We loaded up, and we made our way back after doing our clearance and everything to make sure that the AO was secure. A few more missions went on like that, a few more mounted patrols. We did some LPOPs, watching out for high-value targets. We took in a few high-value targets. We went on a raid in the city of Sagra in the middle of the night to go in and pick up high-value targets. What was cool about me was, yes, I was a mechanic, but when I wasn't turning wrenches, I was a grunt with a toolbox. So when I wasn't fixing things, I was a scout just like the rest of them. And I was raised in the O3 community. It was a great sense of pride because, as we all know, O3s are loyal to only the O3 community, but they do appreciate other MOSs. For example, corpsmen. O3s love their corpsmen. All Marines, we all love our corpsmen. And they love their direct support systems. So their comm guys, their mechanics, their armorers. There's a small little group of non-O3 MOSs that kind of get the luxury or the appreciation of the O3 MOS or the O300 field. Completing Iraq, I came home and I didn't really realize what was going on inside my head. I just knew that I wasn't the same. Driving down the highway scared me. When we were in country, when we rolled down the tarmac, we were dead center in the road and we went like 15 miles per hour looking for IEDs. So the senses were heightened, looking for anything unusual on the road. One of the first indicators that something was wrong with me was when we came home and we went to Victory Field in 29 Palms. We met our families. We said, hey, we're home. And then our families took us home. So on that long drive, we're going 65, 70 miles an hour down the freeway, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, we are going way too fast right now. I'm trying to pay attention to everything that's going on the side of the roads, and it's just ingrained in me. It's not like a conscious decision. It's just something I'm doing. And I didn't catch myself really doing that for some time. My wife at the time had let me know that, you seem different. You don't seem the same. You're not as goofy or as joyful as you were before you deployed. I stayed in the Marine Corps. I went on a couple more deployments. In 2009, the Marine Corps decided to change the boat spacing and allow fewer Marines in. This was also under the Obama administration when President Barack Obama was downsizing the Marine Corps from 210 to 175. So lots of Marines were getting the boot. Boat spaces got smaller. It got harder to get promoted. I found myself doing a lateral move in 2010, lat moving from 2147 to 2141, which is amphibious assault vehicles. Once I did that lateral move, my master gunny sent me to all the advanced courses. So I went to basic course, I went to intermediate course, and I went to advanced course. And I did them all back to back. He wanted me to get trained up. I was already a sergeant, but now I was a sergeant that wasn't going on a B billet. I was a sergeant that was going into a brand new MOS, basically starting my whole career over again. I did 2 deployments with 3rd Amphibious Assault Battalion out of Camp Pendleton. One was a trip back to Okinawa. This was during the whole Fukushima blast, 2011. So we went out there in support of that. Then when I came back, I turned right around and I went out on a 15th MEU as a maintenance chief. That was my first time out at sea for 8 months. During that time, Korea was kind of popping off at the mouth. So when they were popping off at the mouth, our whole deployment just kind of sat off the coast of South Korea, ready to advance into North Korea if we got the order. We did that for about a month. Now, the MEU wasn't all stressful. Aside from living on ship and rocking back and forth, I actually got to go a lot of cool places that otherwise I would have never been able to go. And we went to Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, Djibouti, Africa. We went to Bali, Indonesia. Lots of fun ports. Ship life was unique. While I was on ship, I was responsible for $26 million of government equipment. And I had 6 Marines under my charge. So I wrote pro cons and all of that. I came back and I decided, okay, when I get back, I'm going to go hit my B billet. I'm going to go be a drill instructor. But once again, in 2012 timeframe, the Marine Corps was making another shift. They were lessening the time and grade requirements. They were lessening the tenure time. So lots of staff sergeants were forced out. Lots of sergeants were forced out. When I came back from my deployment, I had less than 24 months on contract. So I put in for an extension and I was denied because at that time they were forcing a lot of Marines out. I got denied. I didn't get to complete my B billet. And since I couldn't complete my B billet, that set me down a peg lower than the rest of the Marines that were in zone for promotion. My EAS came 2 months before the promotion board let out. If it would have been the roles reversed, I would have picked up staff sergeant. I would have been fine. Now, I skipped over some parts. I did get a few ninja punches while I was in. I went against the grain a little bit. So I revisited Lance Corporal. I revisited PFC from Lance Corporal, so I had to go back up the ranks again. So that's why it took me a little while to pick up sergeant. I picked up sergeant at my 6-year mark, and I maintained that rank for 4 years. I got letters of recommendation. I got meritorious unit citations. I got generals, letters of accommodation for some of the performance of my duties. For example, in 29 Palms, when Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger came out, I was assigned on his security detail, and the base general gave me a letter of accommodation for that performance. So I did have some high points and some low points. Then I got out. When I got out, my whole world changed. The whole civilian world was foreign to me. I got depressed. I didn't think I was good enough. I was completely lost. I didn't know which direction to go. because the military spends 3 months making you into a Marine. They send you to advanced schools. It takes about 1.5 years to make a Marine who's trained and ready to work. But when you get out, they give you 2 weeks of don't shake your baby, don't beat your wife, don't curse in public. All right, see you later. Have a nice life. You're not prepared. You're not prepared. If the military spent as much time making a service member or transitioning a service member into civilian life as they do making a service member, I think the transition would be so much better. When I got out in 2014. I came off of reserve in 2017. I did 3 years inactive reserve, just in case I decided I want to get back in or called back in. I bounced around a lot of different civilian jobs. I would stay for a few months and they're like, all right, okay, you know, we're not seeing eye to eye, so we're going to have to let you go. And obviously losing civilian jobs depressed me a lot. I was lost. During the time that I was out, I lost custody of my daughter. That sucked. I have custody with my son, which is great. But at the time, my daughter was born in 2007. I got out in 2014. So I actually got more consistent time with her. But during the time between her birth and the time she turned 7, I had maybe 3 years with her total, because the rest of the time I was either deployed or in training. Fact remains is she just really didn't know me that well. So she decided she wanted to go live with her mom. And that happened about 3 years ago. Now, I could have done a few things. Veterans, listen to me. I could have done a few things. I could have taken a pistol. I could have unloaded and showed clear into my brain housing group, and that would be the end of it. And I wouldn't have any more stress. I could have done a few things. And I did get really depressed. And I want to tell you guys straight up, I do have a few attempts under my belt. I survived them. I couldn't go through with a couple of them, but I'm here now. And when I realized that I'm still here, it must be for a reason. I realized that the military gives you plenty of training to be able to be self-sufficient. The difference is it's a different stage. It's a different theater when you get out of the military and you hit the civilian sector. You have all the training, you have all the knowledge to be self-sustaining, but it's hard to apply direct military training into the private sector unless you find yourself in law enforcement or for corpsmen as a first responder. That's where you'll kind of have your parallel. For me, I knew I had the training. I knew I had the knowledge. I was confident in my abilities as a mechanic, but what I didn't have was welding. So after I got out, I went to Palomar College. I used my GI Bill. I got an associate's degree in welding. That completed my toolkit. So now I have diesel mechanic, automotive mechanic, a little light duty handyman, and now I can add welding into the mix. I figured I had enough time. I was like, you know what?
Hey Justin, real quick, let's we're going to take a break, but before we do, I just want to say, you know, this my show obviously brings up a lot of combat vet related issues, to include suicidal issues, intense moments, chaos, all these things. So the disclaimer is going out there. This is a great, you know, unfortunate set of circumstances for anybody. But the bottom line is the show talks to combat vets, and these combat vets, we all have some very powerful thoughts, feelings, and emotions that take place. But we're going to take a quick break because the PSA for the VA will come on. Hopefully, if Brian's got the control of that, and then we'll come back and we'll totally get into the rest of it too. Because you know, you got this mechanic thing going on with this with Semper Fix-It, and that the welding piece is a huge big part of it. So that's cool that you got that. We'll come back to that in just a moment. If that's cool.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, brother. Unless someone is not at the buttons. Hey, we'll go ahead and continue, brother. Go ahead.
All right. So now we're getting into kind of the meat and potatoes of it. I had to give you the backstory to go to where I'm at now.
Good stuff, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thanks, brother.
My goal is to kind of share my story and motivate veterans, because there's different stages. When you transition, there's multiple stages. It's like a mourning process. You know, your life as a service member on active duty is over. And for most people, they can't identify or separate the military life and then coming into the civilian life as a whole nother level, as another evolution of that person. So I went down a lot of different roads. I got jobs in manager positions. I hired veterans that I could tell were just a few steps behind me in the process of, coming to terms with the fact that I'm out of the military and that I need to figure out something to do with my life. And when I started realizing that, I was like, you know what? I need to start helping. I need to start helping my community. I need to do whatever I can to let veterans know there are ways to become successful. And some of those ways may mean going out on your own. So I founded Semper Fix-It in 2021 with just a little trailer and a welder and some basic mechanic tools. Over the past 3 years, I evolved that. I became a staple in the Temecula area. I've got a nice wrapped trailer. I just hook it to my truck and I go. I drive up to houses. I do a contract with them real quick. I fix their vehicles on the spot right then and there. By the grace of God, I've been able to maintain a 5-star rating all the way through these past few years, not receiving anything less than that. And that was a motivator for me because, ladies and gents, we hold ourselves to a higher standard when we're in the military, regardless of what branch you're in. When you get out in the civilian world, that standard is gone, but it's up to you to maintain that standard. So I went out on my own. I went out alone and unafraid, and I became moderately successful. And that's when I realized maybe what veterans need is not to get a job, but to start a new career. And you have the skills, you have the training, make something of your own. If you're a grunt, maybe start a security company. If you were a mechanic, like me, start a mechanic company, go out there, have confidence in yourself that you have the skills and the training. And when you go out on your own, you can kind of prove yourself a little more. What I learned about the civilian world is when there's a civilian in a leadership role, they will cut the legs off of anybody that's challenging their role. That's not the same in the military. If you're coming up into a leadership position, usually your higher ups will groom you for that leadership position. So as a Marine, you have a confidence and a trust in your senior officers, your senior enlisted. It doesn't work that way in the civilian world. Everybody likes their job, and if they see a threat, they're going to eliminate you as quickly as possible, unless you go out on your own. When you go out on your own, you make the rules. You're interacting with the clients. You're doing the jobs. So I started Semper Fix-It after college, and I decided day one, I'm going to offer a 22% discount for military, active, reserve, veteran, law enforcement, and first responders. I chose 22 because I was almost one of those 22. 22 service members a day on average. I think that number actually rose to 23 now. On average, commit suicide because they can't cope with the loss of their previous life. Doesn't have to be that way. I'm living proof of that. I've been able to mold and mentor other veterans that are struggling to start their own businesses too. One of my best buddies, one of the guys that used to be one of my employees, he's a few steps behind me. He started a pen company making and manufacturing pens. He started off small, but his business has grown with the support of the Semper Fi Fund, America's Fund. And he calls me every day and he's like, wow, I don't know how I've been able to do this without your encouragement. And I say, I just gave you the foundation. You're the one who built the bricks. You're the one who built your company. His company is called All Turned Up. Again, he makes pipes, he makes pens, mechanical pencils now. He does it all 100% custom. He builds them from the ground up. So it's a 100% handmade, either pen, pencil, or whatever. I'd encourage you guys to go check him out too. He's on Facebook. He's on social media. He's on Instagram. All Turned Up is the name of his company. Go check him out. Reach out to him. I'm sure he's got great deals for you too. I've been doing the business for a little bit of time now. Aside from the business, I volunteer with some of the veteran programs out here in Southern California. One of them is
talk about those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we all know Warrior Built. Everybody watching now knows Warrior Built. Obviously, we got Chief here, who's a member of that foundation as well. I went to Warrior Built when I first got out. I was lost in the sauce. I met with Aaron, and I was like, hey, I need something. I need something to occupy my mind. I want to work. he's like, well, it's kind of not how we do here, but we can set you up with a PTSD group. And I'm like, I know you got vehicles in the back. I don't want to get paid. I just want to turn wrenches. And, there was some red tape that kind of prevented that from happening. So eventually I found Warfighter Made. Warfighter Made is chaired by Robert Blanton and Danny Navoa. They're out here in the Temecula area, just between Temecula and Murrieta. Now, what they do is something really cool. They offer a program called Adrenaline Therapy Saturdays. Gents, ladies and gents, I want you to listen to this. Adrenaline Therapy Saturdays. Every couple of months, they'll gather a bunch of veterans. It doesn't matter if you're disabled. It doesn't matter if you're paraplegic. It doesn't matter. The Polaris razors that they bring out there are equipped to handle various types of disabilities. Now, I first went out to this program as, just a consumer, I guess, in a sense. I went out there to experience it. I went out there, I got a quick hip pocket class on how to operate the machines, and they sent me downrange at Rec Fence Off-Road Park. Lots of different jumps, lots of hills, lots of soft sand turns. It really requires a lot of attention. Now, when I came out of my 5 laps, I realized, holy crap, I haven't felt that level of adrenaline since I was on active duty. So I talked to Rob and I talked to Danny and I said, hey, I want to volunteer Semper Fix-It. I want to come out to every one of these events for free at no cost to Warfighter Made or the veterans in attendance. And I want to repair their vehicles, keep them on the track as much as possible. So I've been doing this for about 3 years now. I go out to the events. I stage my vehicle. I open up shop. I set up, a maintenance area. And I offer my services to even veterans that bring their own razors. If they bring their own razor and they trash it on the track, come to me, I'll fix it. No cost to you. We'll get you back on the track. Now, the design premise behind the Adrenaline Therapy Saturdays is not only getting adrenaline in your body, it's getting you that camaraderie. You're surrounded by other veterans. Some of them are in the same boat exactly that you're in. Your wife, your spouse, your kids also get that same camaraderie because there's other wives, there's other kids, there's other spouses out there. So for that moment in time, for that 6 hours, you kind of forget the rest of the world. You're back in your comfort zone. You're back around service members that understand what you're saying. They understand what you're going through. Now, another feature to that is Robert Blanton and Danny Navoa pay very close attention to you while you're at Adrenaline Therapy Saturdays. And what they're looking to do is assess where you are in that transition stage so that they can figure out how to best help you. Some veterans are really in those early stages where they're, contemplating leaving the world. Other veterans have already kind of made it through their transition process a little bit, but they still need a little bit of help. And that's where Warfighter Made really comes in and takes care of their veterans. They also offer other programs for youth. They have the BOLT, which is Building Off-Road Leaders of Tomorrow. It's for kids ages 8 to 18 to come in and learn how to work on a Polaris razor, learn how to fix the razor, learn how to race the razor. My son was a part of that. He got to learn everything about a Razor 170. Then he got to take it out on the track and actually do a mock race. At the end of the race, they did a trophy stand. They did an interview with the kids, and they kind of gave them a taste to what it feels like to be a pro driver. My son ate it up, and he's in love with it. Now he's got his own dirt bike, and he rips around town. It's great. Warrior Built does very much the same thing. They have PTSD groups. They've got like a little band room upstairs where you can kind of let off some steam if you know how to play instruments. They have a group that meets, I think, once a week, Aaron?
Yeah, on Tuesdays, yeah, we have our warrior group. They have the welding class that's going usually once a week or once every other week. Then they have a drum class right now, so they're offering some drum classes up there as well. So we got a softball team that plays on Thursday nights. I mean, it's got a lot of robust programs as well, and it's just so many incredible programs. And this is what's cool because there's a lot of vets that have been in other organizations, other programs that can talk on their behalf, which is super important because maybe you're a little intimidated at first, and it's really important that if you're feeling that way, get a hold of Justin or myself, ask these questions, or other veterans that you hear on the show, ask to get in touch with them, and we'll make that happen. And it's good stuff, Justin. Thanks for briefing that. And I know, you do all these things, and you've put yourself out there and said, hey, if Warrior Built has an event, that you'll want to post up and help that process out as well. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you in the future in any endeavor that you do, man. It's amazing.
It's an honor to me. Like I said, I feel like I have a duty to my veteran community. I made it through the transition. I'm still working on it, actually. But I came from leaving the Marine Corps, lost in the sauce, going to college, getting my associate's degree, figuring out what I want to do with the rest of my life, and then getting called back to college that I graduated from to teach welding part-time, which is cool. My instructors saw what I was doing in the community. They reached out to me 6 years after I graduated, and they're like, hey, we want you to come back. We want you to teach welding at Palomar College. I was like, oh, this is an awesome opportunity. So I just finished up my first semester. The first semester that I taught kind of interfered with operating my business. So they said, hey, we're going to keep you on as a substitute. We like you. We like what you do. But we also know that you're growing your business. So would you mind being on call? And I was like, you know what? That works out perfectly, because then I can have enough time to schedule around it and then come and still support the students. Being able to get back into teaching, and some of you guys watching and listening, take note. Teaching brings another sense of pride. And it's just like when you were in the military and you were teaching your junior Marines or your young sailors or your junior soldiers or whatever. That teaching brings like an esprit de corps. It brings a sense of pride, and you're getting to watch these young bucks grow up and understand, and you're teaching that future generation. It's a very wholesome experience, and it definitely boosts your personal confidence. So I've been doing that now. It's just, at the end of the day, I really have a duty to my veteran community, and I'll help out any veteran organization as much as I possibly can. So
hey, and Justin, I just want to go over something that's really cool about you. One is, there's a 22% discount to this. I know you have a 2-hour minimum, and there's some really cool things. You want to be able to trust somebody, and Justin's like really one of these guys that comes across like that and really makes this, simple, and he really wants to help people out and help the veterans and help the community. So, I mean, it's no BS, but he's got to also keep his business going a certain way. So if you could just talk about what that looks like, because you got a couple charges that have to be on there. But, I know you said that, if the guys that go to Warfighter Made, you'll go over and help them out. Some guys that may need some help at Warrior Built, you'll help them out. So keep that in mind for you guys that are actually part of those programs. But at the same time, if you could give kind of a scope of what that looks like if you're going out, because I was like, hey, will you do an oil change? He's like, well, you don't want to pay the 2-hour minimum for an oil change. You might want to throw some other things in there, like a full tune-up or something of that nature, and kind of go into that, because I thought that was really cool. And in this trustworthiness, we want to be able to trust who we're working with and what we're doing. And I think what you got going on is the way to go, man. And I just love your spirit on it and your attention to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my motto is service with integrity. When I set out on this journey, I set out to change the service-based trade, especially out here in California. You get a lot of people that'll come up and say, oh, hey, give me this money, give me a deposit, and I'll do the work. And then they no show, no call, no show, and you're out the money, and you got to find them. You got to chase them down. So the community out here has really got a bad taste in their mouth for, small businesses and small services. I set out to change that. Every customer I talk to, I'm completely honest, and I give them all the information I can about my billing process. And if they choose not to use me, that's great. I actually have referred customers, potential clients, to my competitors, because I feel like they're going to get a better deal with my competitor than they would get with me. And that's all about that transparency. I don't want to step on anybody's way of life. I feel if you take care of your competitors may take care of you, and it builds a community. Some of my competitors I now interact with on a daily basis, and we send people back and forth to each other, kind of almost like a 1-for-1 swap in a way. But when you hire me, let's say you hire me locally, I have a 2-hour minimum. I can do a number of things in that 2 hours. most of my clients will put me to work and they'll see how fast and efficiently I work. And they say, hey, wait, before you go, can you take care of this? Well, you've got me for another 45 minutes. Let's do it. So it's not like I do that one job and I charge for that one job. You have me for that hour or those 2 hours to fix whatever you need fixed, as long as it's in my scope of repair. And that's another way I bring that integrity to the battlefield, in a sense. When I go out into the field, I talk to my customers. If you're beyond the Fallbrook, Murrieta area, it jumps up to a 4-hour minimum. But I tell them, I'm here. Use me and abuse me. Use my skills and get as many things fixed as you possibly can in that window. And that's where you'll get your value. So when it comes to the 22% discount, I would love to do that on the totality of the bill, but I learned that it doesn't really work that way, especially when I have to buy a lot of parts. Sometimes the discount is the same value of the cost of the parts. So I morphed it into labor costs. That's one thing I can control. So when I tabulate a bill, I do the labor for how many hours I think it's going to take me, plus or minus. And because I'm in multiple trades, that's the best way to bill for me. That way I don't have to maintain a long sheet of this costs this much, this costs this much, this costs this much, and this costs this much. I tell all my customers the same thing. So I'm $95.99 an hour. That's coming in less than the market right now. That's less than all the shops. That's less than all the automotive shops and all the mobile shops, charging upwards of $100 an hour. I figured 95, I'm coming in at a reasonable rate. Now, when you call in as a veteran and you're like, hey, I'm a Marine, or I'm a veteran, or I'm a sailor, or whatever, automatic 22% off of your labor rate, which kicks that down to about $75 an hour. Now, I also have a service fee that I throw on there for fuel and mileage, shop supplies, hazmat and disposal, which is $30 per section and equals out to $89.97. That just covers my operational costs. And that also is applicable to the 22% discount. So when you work with me and you get that discount, it's your labor and your service cost. The only thing I can't discount is the parts or materials that are needed to do the job. I do this with all of my veterans, all of my first responders. There's lots of sheriffs out here. I've had sheriffs work with me. I've had lawyers work with me. I've had real estate agents work with me. A lot of veteran real estate agents, actually. And I do the same thing. Now, the discount is to the individual. So if you own a company and you're like, hey, Justin, I want to hire you, but I want my military discount. If you're coming to me from the company's perspective, you're not going to receive that discount. But if you're coming to me on a personal level and you're like, I need you to come to my house and I need you to fix something, boom, I'm there. In most cases, I'll have a veteran that will let it slip in the conversation about their military career, and I'll jump right on that. I'll be like, oh, you're a veteran? Okay, boom, automatic 22%. And they're like, wait, what? I don't want a discount. Too bad, you're getting one anyways. And oftentimes I'll get tipped in response to my work ethic, my presentation, my professional way of doing things. When I set up shop, I try to minimize my location to the smallest possible area. I lay out sheets. I put down drain pans. I make sure that I'm cognizant of my customer or my client's property so that I'm not reckless with it and I don't leave stains on the driveway or anything like that. I understand what my clients are paying for, and I want to give them what they're paying for and more. You want to underpromise and overdeliver. And that's just the way I am. That's who I am. And to be honest with you, that's what's kept my business going. That's what's kept me in the 5-star reviews. And I don't do commercials or anything like that. I really only advertise on Facebook and Instagram, and it's enough for me to stay busy with 5-6 jobs a week, maybe 1 or 2 big jobs a month. But it's just putting yourself out there, and it's just putting out an honest product in having that respect, that sense of duty, and the integrity to do the right thing for the right reasons and not be shady, because people can see that. And if they see you shady, they're not going to want to work with you in the future. And for me, I don't want to work just one job for you. I want to work a lot of jobs for you, but that first job is my first impression. And I'm not just trying to get paid that day. I'm trying to get paid in the future too. I want you to trust me. I want you to understand I put out a healthy product, and I want you to see me in action. and I want you to be proud of the work that I've done. So then you tell your friends and they tell their friends, and that kind of keeps me going and allows me the freedom to contribute to Warfighter Made and to contribute to Warrior Built and some of these other programs out here. Just my way of giving back.
Justin, hey, that's amazing. I know, we're kind of caught up on time, but if somebody wants to get a hold of you, any last thoughts too, feel free to put that out there. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, they can definitely do it through me, just so everybody out there knows. But feel free to put out any information you want in the show notes. There is some information on how to get hold of him. His website's out there. His link, some of the links that I had are there. So feel free to brief that last step.
So I have semperfix-it.com. That's my website. I pay a couple $100 a month for it. It's well maintained. I also advertise on Facebook and Instagram. You can reach me on Facebook at semperfixit. You can reach me on Instagram at semperfixit. It's easy to find. My logo is right there. You can call me 951-395-5700. Shoot me a text, give me a call, let me know what your problem is, and we'll work it out. I'll write you an estimate right then and there. I'll email it to you after I collect some information, and then I'll leave it to you to determine, is this in my wheelhouse? Is this what I can afford? Now, keep in mind, I also offer financing. So if there's a big job that, you may not necessarily be able to throw down all the cash right then and there, I'll set you up with a payment plan. I will do whatever I can to support you to make it easier to facilitate, as easy to facilitate the repairs as possible. And I do that, again, for all my customers.
Justin, thanks a lot. Hey, and for those of you that are in the Messenger Warrior group, he's also in there now. So if you post something up like, hey, I need something fixed, can you tell me what that guy's name is again? He'll probably see that, and I'll see it as well, and I'll get you him. But Justin, hey, thanks a lot for being on the show, man. This has been amazing. I love supporting your efforts, and you're in a position to move forward. And I know you want to mentor some other guys that maybe even want to go down this direction with you. So there's some other opportunities for some of you veterans that may feel like, hey, I want to step out, but you're not quite sure. This guy's willing to mentor that process to a point. So hit me up, and we'll make it happen. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
Can I just say one last thing?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Hey, if you guys are local and you're in the area and you're just looking for someone to team up with, I am actively looking for veterans to bring under my wing and take out on jobs with me. I'll give you everything that I know. I'll teach you absolutely everything that I know, in the hopes that you take that information and you go out on your own and you do great things. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. If you're local in the Temecula area and you're hurting, give me a call. I'll take care of you.
Good stuff, brother. Hey, thanks a lot. Hey, this is Combat Vet Vision. This is a chance where, obviously, I have some really awesome guests that come on here and tell their stories. And there's combat vets that are dealing with things that are moving forward in positive directions. Guys that maybe aren't, that need that direction too. If you're dealing with something out there, if you're thinking you want to be a mentor in some fashion, hit me up. We'll see what we can do to set some of that up. There's post-traumatic growth that's going on in a lot of different directions. It's super important to see that hope. So until next time, hey, this is Aaron Siebert signing off. Strength and Honor out.